You give nothingness to nothingness. Take me away until only I am.
You give emptiness to emptiness. Take me away till only I am.
I would say, don't close your mind about anything. That for me is one of the great foolishness of our human culture. To close your mind. And sometimes you just have it closed for you. Because almost any discipline that you follow has its limitations. Whether it is some scientific discipline, some form of medicine, some form of martial arts, some form of whatever training. They can only be what they are because of their limitation. I don't know if you see that. You can only be what you are in that way because of limitation. You may find out something, but you preserve and defend your limitation as well. Because your mind cannot be open, totally open. So that's what I was saying, that and what Ramana Maharshi and they say, if you learn anything without first knowing who you are, all your knowledge amount to learned ignorance, if you don't know it. And we are very proud of our learned ignorance because, you become an expert in your own field of ignorance. And you're right there, something suffocate. I'm not saying these things are bad in themselves, because while human beings are drawn to or live with identity, you cannot comprehend the whole. You cannot comprehend it with a sense of wholeness. Your perception of the world is not holistic. You follow? It's just not holistic, because something fixed you into a sort of groove to do with your conditioning, and you learn through your conditioning, and that's fine. Also, we don't expect much more than that. You go to the top of your field within your specific discipline and your traditions and so on, and but you end up into a locked state. I don't know any expert at all who is not in some kind of locked. They say things like that. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. It's not true. I don't accept. You see? Like this. And if you're so proud, I don't accept. It cannot possible. It's ridiculous. It's not possible. And even one time I was having some massage to one Japanese girl in Tiruvannamalai, and she was reputed to be, like a very good at what she does. I don't remember what they call. But she was giving massage, and I said to her something. I don't remember exactly what point it was. I'm going to try and see if I can retrieve it now. But for me, it was a very simple insight. And she said, "No, it's not possible. It cannot happen. It's just not possible." I was so surprised. I said, "Look at you. How could you are someone who come here who is even, studying Ramana Maharshi and speak like that." It was such a limitation. I just, my feeling towards her just dropped right there, because you're not open at all. The best you can do, if you know nothing, don't have any opinion. You just stay in a state of neutrality. Because then the whole universe can converse with you. The universe can find a way into you. If you close all your doors and just you have a sense of opening your doors to your own discipline, though you may be proud and think you're an expert and have all these things, these kind of letters on behind your name, you're still very closed. Even when I could look at this documentary now, and I see the doctors, it's just impossible. You simply cannot. I say these people are at the top of their field. They have, they are regarded as top of their field. And there are things about life that think it's impossible. I say, you are just a child, darling, in this universe. It's just other people think you are something great because you have all these things behind your name. But you're a child here. And I see that it's so sad. I don't know what the word sad, I'm using the word, I don't know what a better word to say.
Especially in the Western.
Western closed. No, Indians also are closed in many respects. But it's true, Indians who have been westernized are very closed and very bigoted as well. They are sometimes even more closed. I went to one treatment center in India one time. I had to do all these tests. I was not well. As often I'm not well in India physically. And I told them I was taking some. What kind of things have you been taking, and so on, so on, so on. So, well, I've been, went to one Ayurveda clinic and so on. So, oh, waste of time. Oh, this thing's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. Doesn't work. Only allopathy work. All these Ayurvedic stuff, nonsense. It doesn't work. So, look at this. I don't even trust you now. That's scary to think you go to a doctor, you're going to listen to these people, and they're telling you Ayurveda doesn't. I don't know if it works, but I feel it's a huge step to say that it's rubbish. I feel that is just so. In fact, a human being whose mind is closed in any direction, basically, is a downhiller for me. You just stay, and this is why I point you so much. Don't be, because many people are afraid to admit they don't know something. They feel ashamed, they feel embarrassed, they don't want to tell you. How do you know sometimes, even in India, you see, you're trying to find some place. How do I get to Ramana Ashram? And the people don't know, but they're not going to tell you they don't know. They send you up the road. You go up there, because they can't say, I don't know. They have to tell you something. And you meet another one up there and tell you, oh, so no, it's down, go down the way there. The other one, no, it's not there, it's over there, go down there. In the end, you end up in the bush somewhere. If I can, you cannot, you just make it available that people know. You have an option just to stay, to discover this beautiful, the wideness of neutrality. Just to stay empty. Don't log into any strong point of view. Don't make tattoos out of any teaching, out of anything. Just follow sense. Keep open. It's the most beautiful. To meet a human being, maybe don't know anything, don't even know the alphabet in any language, but is open. You feel space inside. One of the greatest things a human being can transmit or impart to you is space. To give you space. To let you feel space in their presence. I think it's the modern sickness, a lack of inner space, of that intuitive or that inner space, because we are constipated with concepts and opinion. And then this whole concept of experts, they turn you into a fool. Many teachers, they do this. They become dictators in their disciplines, and they're completely closed to other aspects of seeing. They don't give any credibility. They always shoot you down. No, our way is the right way only, and other ways are wrong. That is called a non-holistic. That's an allopathic mentality, which means basically it's almost poisonous. To just have an attitude like this, no, it's impossible, it cannot be done. You close your mind, and you pick up that state of mind and just go around and, oh no, it's rubbish, it cannot be done, it's never happened, no, nonsense. And because they have a strong voice, the people just simply believe and accept so quickly. Just they don't know anything. Then there's such space. To know anything is a limitation and an ignorance. You should write it down. To know anything, actually, apart from yourself, is a limitation and an ignorance. You can tell anybody has said that. But few will understand what you mean. Because we venerate, at least objective knowledge, so-called objective knowledge. We venerate, something. You know about, biology, you know about zoology, you know about, all these things. But do you know the knower? Who is the knower of all these things? I found out one thing early, because even history, studying history, we learned at school now. And I said, but how do you know these things? Mm-hmm. How do you know if your history is accurate? Mm-hmm. In order to know what the historian writes is accurate, you'll have to have a history of the historian as well, to find out a little bit about where he's coming from, because none of them are empty enough. And even if you could get all the greatest minds, the greatest historians in the world, and put them together, they could not reconstruct one moment accurately of this universe. They think I'm talking rubbish, don't you? They could not reconstruct, because the universe does not work like that. We're only given some, incomplete evidence of our projections at a psychophysical level or something. Of our perceptions based upon our body-mind belief and identity. It's so weak. Just stay empty, don't know nothing. Then at least God can talk to you. Some of these things that happen with people, it's not even out of just training. They can give a little bit of training, but some sort of some divine phenomenon happened to them. You see, and it just is such a powerful shift in consciousness. It completely alters, even your physiological structure is changed like that. That can happen like that. That's what happens in prayer and in spiritual transmission. If something changes, your whole being undergoes kind of like some radical transformation. And your whole thinking is changed. You die personally. You die of something. And thereafter, somehow you inherit a power to not just to teach, but also to impart through your own power. You understand? Because mostly we teach, you're teaching concepts. But can your presence also inspire? Because we look upon teaching like, You learn. But this is why they're fascinated. They're really so, they're so shocked, that something can appear that their science cannot explain. And they put so much belief, so much of themselves into it, that it makes it impossible for them to be open, because it will be to challenge their discipline.
The whole society is built on this.
This is why Mahatma Gandhi, in some way, in fact, he at one point, when he came back, when he returned from South Africa, I think he was in South Africa now, when he returned to India, and somehow it was at the beginning of his spiritual mission, and he had a lot of attention. A lot of parties were interested in him for his support, political parties, and he just had the insight, the wisdom enough to know, don't join any political party, because all of them are limitation. You will never be free. And he had to express a broader truth than any of them had the capacity to be open to. He had to step out of that. No, I cannot do that. I can only walk with God. I can't walk with you. If I walk with you, I'm going to fall down the road. So he had to step away from them. You see, if you are too much conditioned, you are just a bit dead. And this is why very often, only people who are a little bit outcast, who have been rejected by society or considered to be a bit, something inside them become large enough, open enough to allow the divine to move in, to enter from, not enter from outside, actually enter from inside. You see, the knowledge enter from outside in most people, but God enters from inside. You see. If God enters from inside, who are you? If even this much someone understands, you see. Because once you pick up a certain standpoint, it's like the world just appears through that standpoint. You cannot see clearly. It's like looking at the screen now, and you're looking at this number 22 on the side there, and it just seems like it's going down, like it's moving, but it's not moving. If you are not careful, you look at the screen, you think everything is moving, that 22 is like falling down, and you don't say, hang on a second, no, everything is moving up. It's still, and then somehow, but if something comes and says, no, it's all moving, this is a very narrow, you're not open enough to, you have to be open enough to be flexible in any moment. And most experts are afraid to be flexible, because when you're flexible, you have to step out of your tradition. You have to be alive, you have to be fresh, you have to not know. Just like to surrender, you have to be empty. Surrender means to be empty. You can't be surrender and be full. Surrender makes you empty. So I tell you, when you're when I say the state of neutrality, you are empty. You don't have an opinion. But some in our culture, we are afraid to be without opinion, because opinions are venerated. We come into ignorance through opinions. Even more spiritual teachings, they are also a kind of opinion, but they're like divine opinions, I'll tell you what I mean by that. Because ultimately, the truth is not a concept. When you're empty, you can be nothing. And when you're nothing, you can begin somehow to taste the immensity of the divine. What is this life for? What is this body for? To taste and meet and be the immensity of the divine. What is this life for? It's to discover the immensity, the timelessness, the immutability, the indivisibility, the undying, the unborn awareness. This is what this body is for. It's what this life is for. This is why sometimes when you're feeling your lowest, when you're most sick, when you're most depressed, you're actually nearer to God than you think. Than when you're feeling all really wonderful and all this kind of stuff very often. It's just sometimes we're in this state in the body, but you really feel terrible because of what your mind thinks about it. So your mind doesn't want to be there. I feel so terrible. But if you just drop the idea, because sickness also sometimes has to be for health to happen. Sickness is a form of health. Because sickness is purging something out. It's purging something. And when you feel sometimes, when people are most ill, they exude a kind of humility and a spiritual glow come from them. More than when they are very, very, excited and happy in this type of way. They are so out of themselves very often. Many people there is from a state of depression that they drop into the great seeing, the great being. They come through that door when everything in your world crash. But we are not really encouraged to see and to look and to be open about these things. Because then you might just see that everything in your life is a blessing. If you don't believe your mind's judgment about things, you may just start to see everything happen to you. My God, look at that. It brought me to here. It got me to give up all these things. Look at this. A person who is steeped in ego cannot be grateful for anything. Too much joy, too much happiness, too much joy. It's too much, it's too beautiful. It's too beautiful. The song of this being, it's too beautiful. It's just too beautiful. It's too much. It's too much. People have to grow into themselves. They have to wake up into your higher nature. But not just with superficial practice. And you must surrender yourself. You understand? You must give up your personal self-defense. You must stop fighting for your superficial self. You have to turn everything in. You have to have this tremendous courage to throw everything that you value about yourself into the fire of grace. You have to do it. At least have that attitude. Have that attitude. It is the most beautiful thing you will do. The most beautiful thing. The people are fighting to retain themselves, to hold on to their little idea of themselves. And if they look and see what they're holding on to, what is it? Peanuts. Peanuts. It's just some delusion. Pure trickery. My God. How you think I can come to talk about these things like these things? Every day, people might think, boy, you really have a lot of determination. It's really, no, you don't know. Not determination. It's just too much joy. I have to speak it out somehow. But nobody really wants it. It's just a kind. It's there. It doesn't cost me anything. Growing up, and if you would ask at any point in my life, could you imagine that one day, it's inconceivable. I don't think anybody can think like that. Where is it coming from? Where's all this coming from? From the Father himself is coming. Only this one can provide that inexhaustible love and just sweetness. It's just sweetness. Even if he hits you on the head, it's pure sweetness. It's pure. You are so lucky if God give you a drop kick.
It's funny because we were talking about such a love. That you just give yourself to travel. It's such a excellent.
Yeah, just hurry up, Just hurry up,
Please take my mind.
I've been taking everybody's mind for so long, so I'm so sick. Outside, who was saying something to me? Someone say what? They say, what do they say outside? No, I heard somebody say something. They say, if somebody is full of love for me, does it help my body? I say, of course it does. Of course it does. Not just my body, their body and every other body. If you feel love in your heart, if you turn your heart towards all of life, everything benefits from it. And if I'm constantly in the field of tamasic thinking and rajasic thinking and identity, people are always concerned about this and this and this, the kind of the negative egoic depressive states and stuff. It's the most unhealthy thing, and my body feels it terrible. I think this is what also happened with when you speak about Christ gave his life for the whole world. It's a similar thing for anyone who has really gone into the heart of God. You feel you have to give your life, become prasad for the whole world. Because I just say, okay, fine. If you're going to use it for that, then it's fine. It's good. But to use it for that is good. Because it's no good to me What am I going to do with my life? What good is my life if it's just for me? What good is my life if it's just for me? To do what with it? That is the most ridiculous thing. What would I be doing on this planet to just live for me? Who is me to live for me? You're a criminal. You're a thief. You're stealing the love from the world. Your body is to be a servant of love for the whole world. What am I going to do with anything I get from this planet? Just for your own selfish pleasure, which is only, air and gone. No wonder we cannot keep this joy, because everything is momentary. If you are momentary, if you are flesh and blood, you're only momentary. So all your pleasures only momentarily. If this joy, this realization is just for me, it's just totally unacceptable. It's just absurd and it would just be, I just think it would be vulgar. But something happened like that. If you want this body to be healthy, and then you use what I tell you to find yourself. When I was in India, I went to the doctor, an Indian doctor. Indian doctors, at least, most of them, they have some sattva in them still. Western, they're not so westernized that they just become like cardboard. The doctor said to those who came with me, you have to take care of that body of his, because he won't take care of it. He take care of you, you take care of this body. You can't take care. And I can't take care of it. I try, sometimes I try to do it. It's the hardest thing to do it. But I don't like people to take care of my body too much. Also. You understand?
How about trying this light energy?
Try what light energy?
How about it being...
That light energy come from me. I'm the source of that light energy. What am I going to try it for? If it's meant for, if it's been meant by the Lord's will that this body experiences that, then it will happen. But there's no mind to determine that here. I do have no mind to determine these things. If it's like that. It's a bit like I take a risk in saying these things, but I think we have to be mature to listen to these things. When I had a mind enough, I could have determination. I can have a determination now. You understand? And this is what the human being is afraid of. It's like what Mahesh said the other day. He said, when I spoke, God is my secretary. He says, I'm afraid of that. Mahesh, you're here?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm afraid. This is the one thing I don't want. I don't want God to be my secretary. I want me to be my secretary. My mind has to be my secretary. Don't let Mr. God near me at all to be no secretary. And I'm happy that he speak, because maybe you hear an echo of your own thing in that. Because you don't have the confidence enough to trust that the Supreme arranges your existence, your dynamic existence. Because he might just give you something you don't want. That's what you think in your mind. Eh? But this you already is a trickster. We have to be like this, because as long as we have the human form, we have some preferences, and that's the challenge. Because you say, okay, I can't surrender to God. That's why Westerners, many in our Western culture, generally speaking, we are afraid of surrender. It's frightening. Surrender, you know this, because it means surrender your ego. You don't know. You might do something is giving you something against your will. So this thing, may thy will be done. We are praying, oh, Heavenly Father, may thy will be done. But secretly you're thinking, may my will be done. It's difficult when you have this, This is a hard ship to sail, this human body. To use this ship to sail the ocean of samsara. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy for anybody, because, but there's easy way to understand. When you understand, if you don't know your true position, you have the hardest work. And it will feel like it's just you're fighting with your mind. Your mind's going to beat you. But once you are understood, you don't have to fight with your mind anymore. You're fighting with your mind because you believe yourself to be mind. And you feel yourself to be body, mind. You understand? But once you know who you are, you don't have to fight the mind. There's no contest. When you think you're body mind, you'll fight with mind. When you know you're the self, you don't have any fight. Because we want something we want to hold on to our body mind identity. So the mind has a lot of things, a lot of he has a lot of drugs. Yeah. He has a lot of drugs. He's the greatest dealer. You always have something for you because you want something from him. You see. But at the end, what is the mind? You can call the mind in the aspect of the tempter, the accuser, the distractor. You may call him Satan. We don't like this word anymore in the Western culture. But as soon as you again return to your heart, he turns again into light, the same one. Do you like these things when I talk about these things like this? Does it make your spirit feel good?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything you say.
Okay. Because what I teach you and talk to you about, they are pure spiritual oxygen for your spirit. Don't tell you anything to depress you. It will only depress the one who is a disciple of the devil. Only them are going to get depressed. Because they hold on to their identity and are fiercely fighting for identity. That is their bad luck for now. But that karma will change. Because everybody is blessed.
Mooji, like I said also, like they mentioned in the film, more from the more open-minded perspective. And as us being the creators of the world we live in? Does that come already from a mind that is together with the heart?
You are not the creator of the earth, but you are the creator of the world that you experience, the psychological world, the psychological emotional states, which is what the world that we live in. I mean, the earth is one thing, but because we are not experiencing the earth merely as a physical phenomenon, but as a psychological phenomenon, shaped by so many factors, who you think you are, your conditioning, your belief system, your own personal mythology, your own projection and identity all contribute. They are like the herbs and spices that you do, the condiments you use to add to the earth to make it into your unique taste to satisfy your own conditioning. So that world, no two people can live in your world really. It's a very, very unique world. You people it. The population of your world are your projections. You see these bodies and you think you know these bodies, but you can only know them depending upon your projection, what you consider them to be. How can you know anybody? A being is not a fixed thing that you can know. You're more like a verb than you are a noun. There's always something. So what can you know of somebody? What you can know is maybe through their habits. You can say you know. But these are fundamental errors in human perception. And those perceptions have to be corrected. But you have to first be a candidate for that freedom. That we are creators of our own world. Yes, we are secondary creators. It's like God paints a picture of an artist, and the artist paints a picture of his world. So both the artist and what he paints is only God's painting. Ultimately. When I say ultimately, I don't mean in sequences of time, but of subtlety. Nobody's personal world can become universal. Nobody's personal world. This is what we're fighting to defend, is your personal world. Personal identity, personal world. There can never be a unification of the world from a personal perspective. The only one who can somehow unite the world in such a way is the one who has first transcended their own ego. Then that one is the universal being. Such a one sees rightly. The others, they don't see rightly. You take one birth from your mother and your father, but your next birth must be a birth in spirit. You have to be twice born. If you're only once born, you will die. If you're twice born, you will not die. Born first physically, you must be reborn spiritually somehow, meaning that you're awake to who you are. And no parent gave birth to awareness. I tell you guys too much though, I think maybe this is the trouble.
Don't think so.
Why do you say that, Mooji?
I can't help it because it just pours out. I give away all the sweeties. It just pours out. It's like that. You know, remember I told you one time, suppose there was a certain sage who slept for 23 hours and 55 minutes every day. Just sleep. And then wakes up for 5 minutes. Goes up a pee. Comes back. Lights a cigarette. Looks at you once. One look. And you're filled with the Spirit of God. And then another 23 hours, 59, 55 minutes. Could you be a devotee to such a sage?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. I'm pleased. Sometimes little is more. I am not a good portion sharer, but little is more sometimes. Because everything is made available for you. Not everything, not everything. As much as you can cope with. Because consciousness does not waste any part of its expression. You understand? When it comes from here. I'm not talking about just kind of verbal teachings now. I'm talking about the spirit of life. It does not waste any part of its expression. I mean, it doesn't come from the mind, it doesn't come from learning. It comes from the inspiration of God. It doesn't waste anything. So if it speaks, it's because somehow it also has prepared the ears to listen to something, even if just one person. Sometimes I know that in a room I'm speaking to one person. Or maybe I don't count them. Sometimes I can feel, wow, this is a good one. Like it was really assimilated. There's been rare occasions in a room where I feel the entire room is completely stoned in the truth, basically. I have felt it sometimes. It's a wonderful feeling. But very often, just a few just get falling down. Yeah. And the others are kind of like this. You feel these things energetically, I'm not taking any record of it. But you do feel, and I also know sometimes when something is said, and it's almost like nobody's got it. It's like throwing some frisbee over everybody's head. And nobody got it.
But sometimes you want to ask, when I talk to myself, sometimes you ask this question. You say something and then I'm talking to myself. I'm listening, guys.
That's just theater. That's just play. I have to play with you. I have to provoke you a little bit because sometimes just to catch your attention because you sleep so easily. Sometimes I have the feeling that somehow I'm trying to impart to you everything because I might leave this body or something. Because I don't have any sense of maybe because I don't hold on to any concept about future. So everything is sort of like now, but only, like I say, as much as you can comprehend. Because rarely on some occasion I find that something keeps going. I said, wow, I'm so happy, I'm so happy that this gets imparted because I don't come with the intention to do this. Like, I'm going to talk about this. But somehow it happens so beautifully inside that it just keeps going. And I find we are together still. And this is the most beautiful thing. Because after sometimes I feel I've run out now. Okay, no more now. The last trip we can take. But another kind of time, someone is just traveling with you. I say, wow. And rare, but it's very, very beautiful. There's no such thing as, could you tell us the eyes teaching? What am I, some performer? I'm not like that. You have to be ready. You ask questions, but you're not ready for the answers to them. When something is ready, that amount of space is full. If you come with a cup with only sort of like for 30 mils, you get 30 mils, as much as you can take. Somebody else in the same room as 1 liter cup, they get 1 liter. Isn't it? It feels like this. I feel that my greatest joys have come when I don't care about myself. Some great care is there, but it's not about, just something, just you have those rare moments where you can drop your life. You can drop your life. You've made that pledge in front of God. You see, how can I speak about the Supreme? Why can I speak about God and speak at the same time of this indivisible truth? I don't know. Because normally Gyani talks only about, the ultimate, the absolute, there's nothing but that, there's nothing, no form, there's no this, no that. But no true Gyani can refute what I say. Because they have the same thing. My love aspect come from God. My wisdom aspect come from the Supreme Awareness. But I don't see any difference. You follow? I don't feel any difference. I don't know any difference anywhere. All of it is all of it. Maybe everybody who come here has to be a Jnana Bhakta. You understand? You have to be that wide. You know what a Jnana Bhakta is? You don't know? I am a Jnana Bhakta. You know me? You know me? This is good. If you know me, you know you. And if you know you, you know me. I told you when I am in this mood, all the angels are happy. You think I'm joking?
No. Just dancing.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel I'm crazy to say such things, I would go to hell for saying such things.
You could never go to.
No, I can, but I can't stay there. I can go visit over there. We'll talk with Mr. Beelzebub a little bit. He said at one time, Lord Rama and Lord Shiva met in the forest. These two, they met in the forest. And they went inside this shrine. They went inside. And their devotees had to stay outside. Now the devotees of Shiva are all the ghosts. And the devotees of Rama are all the monkeys. And they're outside, they kind of like snaring at each other. You know? They're arguing outside. But their masters are gone inside, embracing each other. So I changed the story and I said that when the masters emerged, they decided that they will appear in each other's body. So they each walk off with their devotees, and none could tell the difference. That's how I changed the story. Hmm?
I was editing a satsang the other night, and you said something in it like Shiva has these dreads, the image of Shiva has these dreads and this staff and all these things. I don't remember the words you said. But that's not Shiva. And it just struck me so much, like Shiva has no form, and then it struck me like we have no form, of course, like it's so obvious in that moment. And yeah, it's just very beautiful.
Because the man considers himself as a form, so he needs God with form also. He needs to have a world with form. You venerate the senses, and the senses also are functioning through the form, the physical senses. The spiritual senses have a different way. They have a subtler forms. They trip out on subtler forms. All these things give us the sense of visibility, but where they are rising out of, where I am, what I am, I cannot find. It's not found. This shadow you call a person is just too small a thing. No. This is a very good metaphor. Like I look at this thing here, you see? You see the pictures are moving, and then it seems like the 2242 is moving also. It's like it's going down and the others are going up. Sometimes can feel like that. You see? But if there's no image on the screen, then you see the absolute stillness of the 2242. Although now it's going to be 43 in a second, but like that. No? I like this type of thing looking like that. Is it? Okay? Now, but the one who is understanding can see the stillness of the 2242 and the movement of the images and the non-movement of them at the same time. You see, and understand what actually is moving. You see, all these things. It's like it is so multidimensional in perception. You see, and yet all of that is appreciated from a stillness. And yet at the same time, sometimes we're looking for the stillness outside, like you're looking. That is so still. But it's not more still than where the stillness is perceived. Can these things be successfully taught? They can only be pointed out, you know. And then the intelligence then sort of like somehow digest them, assimilate it. And then in that moment, tremendous joy, ananda, fills the air. I don't know what to do with this life at all. Any part of it. I don't know what to do with it at all. I'm glad I don't have to do anything with it. Just like these images, it's just going on by itself.
Daddy, you know, I'm looking at this, and the thing that is standing still is the time, which
Yes.
is like a weird concept, because, like, the things that are not changing are the things that are moving, but it's almost like the time is not moving, but because it's so still.
Yes. And yet time indicates movement.
Yes.
I would tell anybody, don't get mixed up with all these kind of things, these calculations. Don't waste time. But only the ones who come to me. I don't want to go out of my way to tell anybody that. To say, listen, if you want to meet God, be ready to meet Him now. Understand? If you want to meet God, don't want to meet God tomorrow. You want Him to meet Him now. Meet God now. You understand? Because the mind is full of cheating. If you say I want to meet tomorrow, it's not true. It's not true. You're already postponing. Or you may tell people, oh, you know, I'm ready for meeting God tomorrow, not at the end of the world, tomorrow. But you're already a cheat, you don't know. You have to know you don't know now.
In French we say, tomorrow we shave for free.
Tomorrow we what?
We shave. Demain on rase gratis.
We shave.
Yeah.
Share?
Shave
I'll shave the beard.
For free.
for free. But it's always tomorrow.
Yes, yes. See, when I'm in this mood now, I can't really move so easy. You understand? Like I should go to my bed now. But I can't really move. I can. No, I don't need help. I can. I know what I'm saying. It just feels easy to sit down here. I know it might sound a bit arrogant to other people. Sometimes they don't know, but I can see how Jesus must have felt with his friends, his disciples. And we can't go to bed because it must be so much joy. I mean, what is more joy than to be in the energy field of the Sangha? You cannot, you see. Either you suffer, even if you suffer, you enjoy. It's a joy. But your mind don't know that it's a joy. Your mind is telling you, no, it's so terrible, look how I feel.
Mooji, I wish I could express. There is such a gratitude and love, and I know I don't have to, because you know. I have no words for it.
This is where the life is great. Not outside. Not here. No, it's here. Here is where the life is. The television is there. The image is there. But where is it being appreciated? Here. The life has to be here. This is the life here. Isn't it? This is the lighthouse also. And the perceiving of the light is here. What is the satsangs with me, I tell you, is that? It's just killing your distractions. Something wants to go to be the, and so just chop it a little bit. Stay here. I said, Jesus Christ. Why you give me so much trouble? I remember the story of Sri Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna, a great saint he is. A great jnani also. And one of his disciples who he loved so much, this boy came to him as a young boy, Narendra, later to become Swami Vivekananda, very famous Swami, because he was to take Ramakrishna's teachings to the West, to the United States of America, at this big United Nations, or this big conference of religions, and he spoke. This many years later. But when he was a disciple, young disciple with the master, he had a sort of what you may call a temperament that's much more like the behavior of a jnani. He was more wisdom-minded. He was more, the teachings of Shiva and non-duality was very strong like this. Now, Ramakrishna's his role in the life was more of a bhakta. He was completely devoted to Kalima. So Mahakali, that was God for him. He related to God through the form of Kali. And then after a while, Narendra, or Vivekananda as a boy, as a young disciple, he was always fighting with the master a little bit. Why you speak about this and but there's only the one. You said there's only the one. So what does this do? Why are you speaking so much? You're singing these beautiful songs. But Narendra himself was a singer. He also used to sing, beautiful songs also. But to him, his songs was just tradition in a way, up to a point. Whereas to the master, he was singing out. He entered into a state of samadhi, and he's singing. He's just singing. He used to hear people sing, just mention the word of God in any language, and he's gone. It was like taking some heroin neat. You understand? You say, Holy Father, he's gone. You sing a song, oh mother, oh mother, beloved mother, he's gone. Sometimes he's walking, somebody says, praise be to God. That is he's gone. And then he's gone for a while too. And the people would sit around him and praise, and they're just like they were completely in awe. He said, what's happening? He's gone. And then slowly his consciousness returned. He's kind of more, the bodily consciousness would return, and he's again, he could talk and move like that. One day, Vivekananda was, I think he was sharing a room with Rakal, was another devotee. I think it might have been Rakal. My memory of them is not so much. They're in the room, and Rakal come running up to the master's room. It's Master. Yes, what is it? It says Narendra, Vivekananda. But let's call him Narendra then. He's completely berserk. He's gone mad. Gone mad? Yes, he can't find himself. He's running around like a headless chicken. And he can't find himself. He said, where am I? Running around. So the disciples were a bit afraid, and he went to the master, and Rakal, and said, he has lost himself. He can't find himself. So the master was very calm. He said, you know what? Let him stay like that for a while. He's causing enough trouble already. Let him run around for a bit. He will come around in a bit. But let him run around in this state for a bit, because when he's around, he just causes a bit of trouble. He always, then he will know. You see, mothers kissed him. Now let him stay in his madness for a little bit. You see. Sometimes these start real relationships, they play out like that. You see, you could not find. Look at where's me? Where I can't find myself. Has you seen me? Have you seen me? What does it mean when somebody does that? It means they cannot find their localized consciousness. They cannot find any reference to their personal sense of self. You see? Because that preoccupies our psyche so much. That all your relationships is referring back to this personal self. And then it's gone. And but something is there, afraid, no? Something is there, say, I can't find myself. You see? It is the consciousness now. It's more the consciousness than the person now. But in the consciousness is still in a state of delusion, you see? Because he's tied himself to the person, and the person is gone. And the deluded consciousness, I can't find what happened to me, I can't find myself. You see? Would you like a state like that? Okay.
For a little while.
For a little bit, only for a little bit.
Mooji, yesterday you mentioned ego of God's ego. You said something to this, and in a way I was very happy to hear that, because in this book that you read about Ramakrishna, I was struck a little bit when it was said that Sri Ramakrishna himself retained a little bit of ego so he could actually teach.
Yeah.
And that felt strange to me, because the word ego I only knew in this personal sense, and I could not imagine that Sri Ramakrishna, as a great being he was, that he would still be bothered about ego. But then yesterday when you said this, that kind of...
What did I say?
You said something about, I mean, I cannot put it in context, but you used the word ego of God, God's ego.
God's ego, yeah.
When you spoke to Maria, I don't remember exactly the whole context of it, but so that kind of was a beautiful way of you saying that.
Yes, I was referring also to that the I am is the ego of God. In one way, you can say that the person also is like, in a way, a more extreme form. But somehow these things they get cooked inside you. Most of our knowledge or insights, they come, sort of prepared in some way without your deliberate study. They get like revealed inside. Just something just comes to see. It's like when I use the term like this, peeling away of the cataract of ignorance and this clear seeing remaining like that. But even that sometimes can be a little bit misunderstood, because always seeing is linked to object and subject, like the subject perceives the object, you see. But really the highest expression of seeing is the understanding of your real position. You see that somehow you're seeing from the inmost being. So you're seeing an object. The inmost being is not really perceiving objects in quite that way. All objects becomes the subject then. All apparent objects. In fact, they're always the subject. Everything is only the subject. But in the expression of duality, I'm very happy to be saying this. But in the expression of duality, the subject must split into subject and object. But even this subject, that as an object, which is the expression out of the I am, even this subject has a little bit of object in him. Easy. the pure subjectivity is completely without reference. I wonder if you follow that.
Yeah.
This is why I say the subject beyond the concept of subject. Because that subject, which has got the counterpart of object, is itself subtly subtle object. You see? Although both of them is the one subject, but in the play of duality, they appear subject and object. But within the realm of duality, that subject also has object in him. Don't ask me to repeat that. When I speak like that, does it sound, I mean, do you still feel the spirit and the love in what I say when I say this?
Yes.
Because some people will say like, oh, this is very mental. I say, my God, what you don't, you're crazy.
You don't listen to the words only.
It points to something and guides something inside
Yeah.
to see.
It opens locks.
Yes. I'm happy. I know it because I wouldn't say it unwise. But I like to hear just, some signs of life, really.
Also, Mooji, you say that actually you said of that the liberation or freedom is not only for me.
Yes.
And when you spoke to us the other day in this strong way, what I discovered here is that somehow this that seeking liberation can very much be the highest egoic endeavor, in the sense that we look for some, how to say, that we're still looking, I'm speaking for myself in my own experience, there is still a personal goal in that, of
Yeah. But we
say-
must remember this
Yeah.
thing, right? That this searching for liberation is the action of consciousness. We must not forget this thing. Because then that nullifies that the person is searching for something. You see, it cannot come back to the ownership of the person. The person itself is the expression of consciousness. So the consciousness is functioning through this shape, this conceptual shape of a person, because it chooses these kind of intricacies to play and to, in a way, hide itself in its own projections, to thicken the soup of manifestation, and then to come back into the clear waters of seeing again. So it has to be in somehow understood that it is the whole imagery is generated by consciousness. You see, so even the feeling that it's just be my ego is doing that. You must, when you say my ego, you must now establish again, remind yourself that you are consciousness speaking. And then when you say yes, this is my, it's coming from my ego, then you see immediately it changes the meaning, because then your ego is seen as only something secondary to you, because you are consciousness. If you don't do this, you might just believe that you are the ego, and then that's where the sin starts, in a sense, the sinful repercussions of that. But when you see that it's from the consciousness, then you see it's consciousness is responsible for all of that thing. Then you can see that it's totally the film. It's like if we are watching a film, and then sometimes you forget that it's a film, and you start to think it's real. In the life is a kind of like the film of consciousness, you can say, whereby this film is on a screen, but it's a three-dimensional screen, with a sense of with perspective and distance and textures and smells and everything is inside that. God's virtual reality dream movie. And then within the great tapestry, the great dream, Each one is themselves their own little Spielberg in their own movie. So it's like a secondary creation, like the creation is creating also. You understand? The creation is creating also, but forgetting that it itself is created, meaning that itself at the body mind level. Because once it knows in the soul that it is the self, it cannot anymore think itself as a phenomenon. It's like the smelling salts wakes up the consciousness and whoa, and so it cannot really dream anymore, because everything it does, it sees that it's now perceiving the dream, but it's perceiving it being awake. Sometimes it wants to be in the dream and be totally in the dream, like the dreamer is the dream also. It's inside the dream. You want to believe in the dream or something. And when you're awake, you see the dream. You can still enjoy the dream, but you also, it's sourced in your awakening. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Because I can't go too much far with that. Just to correct a little some things. When we speak like this, it arises from that space within. It doesn't really require too much thinking, because your whole listening is happening in such a broad, like in a multidimensional functioning, so that you don't have to be scratching your head so much. It's a bit like water being poured into water. It's more like you're understanding through resonance. You're understanding through synchronicity, and not through mind. Mind's heavy way to learn. Mind is the ego's way of learning. You see? But when you somehow, I'm pointing you back to yourself, to your center. This is my main pointing. And from the center, your understanding becomes very intuitive, very immediate like this. And it's not like a whole, encyclopedia of knowledge. Not like this. It's more always just pointing you back to the self. The joy that people get from the mental understanding, is sort of like so much less than the joy that is just coming from harmony. When you are in harmony, it's not like you're collecting knowledge. You are both the knowledge. In that moment, you are the knowledge and the perceiving of that knowledge, or that knowingness. You see? And I don't want to talk so much, because something inside says, it's enough. It's enough. Because any further you might go into the mind, you start to call the mind. Because that's the habit. Our habit is the mind. So something just stays in the, like you're in the neutrality, or somehow the neutrality. How does the neutrality understand? You cannot say. Just understanding take place.
It's more like the confirmation of something that is already inside.
Yeah, it's already inside. It's already here. Everything is here. But don't think that we have to hold on to the manifest understanding too much. You see, the purpose of that is not to clarify a manifest understanding. The manifest understanding is only a reflection of that imageless awareness. You be in that. Don't hold on to the knowledge. The knowingness also itself is phenomenal in some way. When you come back into pure spirit, pure spirit. And that's not a changeful. That's not oscillating. And as soon as it's pointed out, after a few times, you see, my God, but it was always obvious. It was obvious. How could something be missing something so obvious? You see? Yeah? And even that, it's not even obvious even. After a while, it goes past obvious. Obvious means it is recognized. It's recognized. See, there's still a little duality there. You know, natural self. What's natural self? You know, no calculation, no summarizations, no comparisons, nothing there. Then the old man would probably thinking about, God, but why would you want something there's nothing there? Why you go to something there's nothing? Is it? Because it doesn't know anything but something. It wants to know something. He said, well, how can you be so happy with nothing? It's completely, scientist, how can you live without eating? It's completely ridiculous. It doesn't exist. You see? So in our own limitation, you know, but how can you have nothing? You have nothing at all, nothing. This is what consciousness is portraying through the expression of Jainism in some way. They're showing you a yogi walking on the street in the center of city with nothing at all, walking completely. I've seen them in once in two of them when I walking around only with some Nike, and nothing else. Yeah, I don't know who gave him that, but we're usually walking. They have nothing at all. They don't have anything at all to demonstrate that you don't need anything. And when they don't have anything, you have an uncrowded happiness. It's like, you see, like Papa G say, you need nothing to be happy. You need something to be sad. You see, so like he's gonna show you nothing. He's just walking about. I mean, of course, it can also be on a superficial level also. You see, but here is demonstrating that it's nothing. So that the people who think that you need something can look and say, well, this guy, why is he so happy? He's got nothing. He even got a diaper on. You see, he doesn't have anything at all. How can it be? You see, so the consciousness is sending a lot of clues, into its dream. Little alarm clocks to wake us up out of sleep, but we don't raise up so easy. A little bit, go straight back. You see? So that must be the game. He's saying, I'm so precious that I must hide myself from my dream self. When my dream self is enough awake, it will recognize its real self, which is me, and there's no duality in that. I better shut up now. I don't. What's all this talk about? Just joy. Joy is celebrating joy. Joy is celebrating joy. Love is celebrating love. Peace is just trying to give itself away.
Before a wave rises, it is ocean. Before desire moves, it is emptiness. You give everything to everything. Take what I am not, until